Welcome to The Pestle, reviewing and breaking down movies to look for insights into the movie-making process. Hosted by True Crime, reopening trauma for easy ratings, instead of writing new material. Now, let's dim the lights and start the show.
On the nose.
Welcome everybody to The Pestle. Today's show is brought to you by Blue Scope. Stop looking for the perfect search engine. Start searching on Blue Scope. Welcome everyone to The Pestle. I am Wes.
And I'm Todd.
And we're filmmakers. We make things and we talk about movies. We'll do a deep dive review on, what's good, what's bad, what's working for us, and what we think may not be working. And then we, try to use it to make things. And when we make our own things, sometimes we submit them to festivals. And sometimes when we submit to festivals, we get into festivals. And sometimes when we get into festivals, we go attend festivals. And so that was what I was doing with my weekend.
Man, you just know how to segue. Hardcore.
Thanks, man.
Perfect. Yeah, so Trauma Minds, your short film, was in film festival. What was the film festival and how you went? It was in Dallas, right? And how was it?
Yeah, so you scored, big team effort, and we attended the Dallas International Film Festival Shorts. And so colloquially, like in the area, they have two terms, Big Diff and Little Diff. And so Big Diff is their major festival that they'll do feature films and a bunch of other stuff, bigger panels, all that kind of thing. And then Little Diff is just, they were like, you know what? There's so many good projects we're going to have later in the year. So in the summer, they'll do Big Diff, and then Diff Shorts is in the winter. And so they'll do just 3 days of nothing but programming, short films, and they even have a block for like music videos. But yeah, it's all short form content. And yeah, we played on Friday night. We went, and this was my first time doing what is, I guess, just called a red carpet. And so they had, 15, 20 foot red carpet, nice backdrop. And they had 5 or 6 interviewers. And so one thing I will do, I'm still learning, and maybe I'll do a recap at some point. But I went up, we're playing Friday night, 7:45. And so I'm like, okay, I'll drive up Friday morning or afternoon. And then I was like, there's a mixer here in Austin that I want to go to. So I'll go to the mixer, and then I'll drive down. And it was just the wrong decision because it ended up being so much traffic more than I'm used to. And it ended up being a 4-hour drive. And then they scheduled the red carpet between 6 and 7. And so I get there at like 6:15, 6:20, and get out of my car, like breathing hot mess and just frazzled from, all the traffic. And so I go and give myself like 5 minutes of like just sitting. Okay. And then I go line up for the red carpet, and they have a PR woman there who guides you through everything. And I don't know, I tried 30 minutes before I arrived to just shut off everything and think about the film, because here's the thing, man, I wrote this over like 2 years ago, and then we produced it in January of 2024. And the final render was in January of this year, 2025. And so like in between all that, I've written so many other things. Like this year alone, I've written 2 scripts, feature length, and I'm halfway through a third. And so my mind has been, and so I really needed like a lot of time to think about, okay, what did I make? Why did I make it? What's all the symbolism? What does this thing mean? And so I'm spending time thinking about what I could possibly be talking about. And so I get up there, and I'll link, there's one clip already out there that Diff linked me to. And so if you want to see me rambling on the red carpet trying to be coherent, you're like, well, I do. But it was really cool because all the interviewers were so gracious, and they really let me ramble. And then even better, like they edited it all down to like somewhat cohesive, coherent, like whatever, 90 seconds of me talking about the film. And it was really fun, man. I really enjoyed that experience, and I learned why you hear so many canned responses. And I've heard people talk about this before, of like don't go to every interview on your press junket. And again, this is me with like 5 people. I can't imagine having a full day of like 30 people. And it really makes a lot of sense to just can your responses of like, this is what the film's about. Here's what I did. And here's this one anecdote, and if you don't do that, you're going to fry your brain of trying to give everyone an individual unique response. And I can see that scaling up would be a terrible idea, because that was what I was trying to do over the course of 5 or 6 interviews, not even getting into the Q&A panel after the film. And so I learned a lot just from that and had a great time. I think I will get better at that process. And when I started, even that day, like I was joking with the interviewers as we were setting up. I was like, yeah, we can clip this. I'm not going to hold this. I'm going to just be shivering like a leaf the whole time. So, I'll save you, all the hand noise, for post. And everyone was, really kind of gracious, and it was fun, man. It was a challenge, but the other fun part was after the screening, they call up all the filmmakers in attendance, and it ended up just being me and one other guy.
Really?
Yeah, it was just us, and it was so cool because I really enjoyed his film. It was very creative. He played right after mine. And he was joking with me about like, dude, I saw your film and then saw that I was playing next, and I was like, fuck. Like, I don't, not after that. I don't want to go after that.
That's awesome.
So that's a really like lovely thing.
And that's awesome. And that's awesome that he actually said that, because I think that says a lot about him, as an artist, because like, you want to think that you're making great work, and maybe if you go to a festival that your work is the best that's there, and you've put everything into it, and seeing somebody else's also great work that they hope is the best thing there, and acknowledging how good something is in relation to yours out loud to that person is vulnerable, and probably like one of the more honest moments that you could have, I would imagine, as a creative, to like say to somebody else, I'm afraid to go on after you because what you did was so good. Even if what I did was considered better or received better or whatever, just saying that is like so valuable to you, and to other people. That's pretty awesome that he said that.
100%. And his film really was strong. It was a good film. It was clever because he didn't have a single actor in there, and it was all told in subtitles, and it was a horror short, and it was just filmed with compositions. And he's telling a story. It's called Confession. He's telling a story about, as a kid, he was a dog sitter for a summer, and how he forgot to check on a dog one day, and he remembered late that night. And so he goes into the middle of the night to check on the dog, and the dog died. And he's discovering, and so he kind of just sets the stage at the very opening of that's what the story is. And then you see it all unfold as he's describing beat by beat what's happening. And it's all subtitled. He doesn't even voice over. It's subtitles and music. And so I was really excited to talk to him about it. And in fact, when we were doing the Q&A, like the panelist was so good. I was really impressed. Not every festival gives you a lot of time to sit and take questions and talk about your film. And they really made a lot of time for us to have those discussions. And the panelist himself was a filmmaker, and he's a programmer there at the festival. And so we got to have a very thoughtful, informed, conversation that was specific to us and the films that we were just watching. He started broad, but then he was like, let me narrow in and ask very specific questions. Like one of his questions was like, hey, so both of y'all have very, tonally aggressive films that you can't really stray too far from. You really got to stay in that zone. What was your technique and tactics of making sure the tone always stayed on point? And I was like, I've never heard that question before. I love this. And I had to sit and think, And so but at the same time, I was really interested in asking him about his film. Like, yeah, can I ask a question? What was your capture format? Because it looked very degraded. And so it was a really wonderful time just having a conversation. And then the audience questions were really, really strong. And they were reading. Some of the audience members were picking up things that some festival programmers didn't pick up. Like I got some emails from people who rejected the film, and they were like, yeah, it was really good, but this thing that you didn't make any sense at all. And I was like, hey, all good. This isn't for you, but there is a reason why I did what I did. And here's what it is, but I get it. Programming's hard. Best of luck. I hope your program goes well. And then here I have an audience member who's like picking up the symbolism that, we had in the film. And I was just like, man, that's very satisfying.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome.
And
that's great because that they had to pay attention to get that,
Yeah, you really have to be locked in and thinking about everything that's being put in front of you. And as will be no shock to our audience, that's what I aim for. We can't always nail that, as we'll probably see very soon. But that's, what I'm certainly, whenever I'm writing and putting, a creative work together, I really am trying to cohesively think about the way the events unfold, why they unfold the way they do, and what I'm trying to communicate to the viewer, intellectually as well as experientially. Like that takes a lot of thinking, and it takes a lot of effort. And sometimes the effort can override the result. You clunk it up while trying to nail these things. And then sometimes it just comes together. And this is one of those few moments for me. I feel like things really did come together. Yeah.
That's amazing, man. That had to feel pretty awesome. I'm proud of you. I'm just so stoked.
Thanks, man. It's, we hopefully we'll be back. That's very, between this and making, I've just been having a really good run, man. I'm really enjoying this. And hopefully, we got one or two more in the tank. Well, we'll see. I think I'm waiting on just a few more responses. And fingers crossed. You never know. But, you certainly can't just pave the way and program it your way, But I have a lot of respect for the programmers because it's very, very hard to do. And speaking of programming that's extraordinarily difficult, what are we covering today?
Did you plan that?
I did not.
Well done, sir. Today we're covering Tron Ares, which is out in theaters as we are recording this episode. If you haven't seen it, pause the episode because we're going to spoil all the things.
Yeah, we'll take a narrow but deep dive into some of the story and writing. We'll talk about the small details, discuss some of the exposition, talk about likable characters, and other such stuff and things and stuff.
Okay, I'm not sure how to pronounce his first name, but we'll see. Synopsis of the film. A highly sophisticated program, Ares, is sent from the digital world into the real world on a dangerous mission. It's directed by Joachim.
If Junie Marie is still listening, we are so sorry.
Directed by Joachim Rønning. Screenplay by Jesse Wigutow. Cinematography by Jeff Cronenweth. It's featuring Greta Lee as Eve, Evan Peters as Julian Dillinger, Gillian Anderson as Elisabeth Dillinger, Jared Leto as Ares, Jodie Turner-Smith as Athena, and Jeff Bridges as Flynn.
Delete Ares and bring the user back to me.
Copy.
Disobeyed my directive.
Which was?
To retrieve the code from your disk and delete the carrier.
Dillinger told you to delete me?
Hang on! Where are they?
Scanning quadrants 3 and 4.
Sector 18 clear.
Todd, I'm sure you've watched, I don't know if you've watched any of the other Trons. Okay, nice. So you're roughly up to date. You probably haven't watched them recently, unless you're just, aching for punishment. But what a good music video, or
Yeah.
good movie. What do you think, man?
Okay. So, Trent Reznor is great. I think that the music is really strong. Okay, let me just start with some positives, and then I'm going to say some negatives about the positives, and you know,
as it
maybe
goes.
some positives. But okay, Trent Reznor, 9 Inch Nails. Basically, this is a 9 Inch Nails album. Fantastic. I thought that the music was really strong and beautiful, and exactly what I would expect from Trent and Atticus. That said, I don't think that they what's the term? You know, when we had Raul on, he said there's a guy who programs
music
the music.
supervisor.
I mean, I guess it's like this track is going to go here, and this track is going to go here, and you know, like it's a I guess it's a programmer.
Yeah, it's either the music editor or the music supervisor. I would think the supervisor is like working on.
Yeah, I thought the supervisor just finds the music, but
Okay,
somebody
maybe,
actually
yeah.
like puts it into the scene. Anyway, I thought that was terrible. I mean, I think the clip that you showed was a perfect example of that. There's so many other pieces of music that would have gone better and like made me feel like something was happening, other than like some tinkly sounds, you know, like it didn't take the strength of the soundtrack and put it in the right moments. I felt lackluster half the time. And so I was like listening and I was thinking, man, this sounds so good. If I close my eyes, I'm like, this is a great piece of music. It's just put in the wrong damn place. Like this is, you know, this should be a scene of Ares talking to Julian, right? Like, you know, when he's in the
God.
digital world,
Yeah.
when he's the face.
Yeah.
That'd be a great moment for that, right? But in a chase scene when he's running from drones and they're trying to kill him, no, that's a terrible choice. I do like the Tron world. I think that the original Tron is hard to watch, but if you need to watch it knowing that nothing like that had ever been done before, and that they painstakingly by hand every frame drew all of the light lines in that film. It took months to do it by hand, every frame. This is before computers were used, guys, or like it way before. This is like crazy stuff. So Tron took film to a new place. The story was also kind of like weird and exciting, especially for the time, right? I thought that Tron Legacy, I don't think that the CGI was up to snuff when that came out. What was that, 2010, I think?
Yep.
Or somewhere around there. But I thought the story was fun and strong and like entertaining. I don't think this movie needed to be made. I honestly don't. I don't see how. The only way I think that this movie should have been made is if it was like a net new, we're starting over. We're not linking this to Legacy at all, but they do, right? Because we see, what's his name? We see Kevin Flynn, and even though it's like a digital representation of him, we see him. So they're trying to link them. So they are linked, but there's no purpose to it. Like the only purpose is to get Ares out. Like I'm trying to think, you know, yes, there's the permanence code, but I don't even give a shit about that. Like that doesn't, because she finds it at the beginning, and it's almost, I hate it when movies do this. I hate it when this thing that is crazy and would change the world, you find it at the beginning. I want to see the pain that it took for you to get there, because all I'm seeing is you show up at this place, and after 5 minutes, which is really months. Oh, I've been here for months. No, I've been here for 5 minutes. I don't feel months. And then you find this thing that changes the world. You give me nothing. I have nothing. I don't care about that thing. As amazing as that thing is, and I understand it, it gives me no like awe. I have no awe of what this thing is. And then okay. And then Jared Leto, I just, you know, I hope, Wes, that one day you find someone that loves you just as much as studios love Jared Leto. I don't know why. He is cast in everything, and it's almost like it's almost like he wrote this movie for himself to be the lead. I don't get the casting. I don't get the performance. It was pretty flat, and he's a good actor. Like obviously, I don't know if he has Academy Award, but he's been nominated at least, I think, for
Dallas Buyers Club.
He was in Dallas Buyers Club, right? Mm-hmm. So the guy knows what he's doing. The writing was just terrible, and as beautiful as it was, and it was beautiful. Yeah. Like I gotta be honest, like the scenes inside the digital world are just gorgeous. And I didn't see it in IMAX. I wish I would have, honestly, because that would have probably helped the experience, because it was just so beautiful. And then I even loved the CG of them coming into the real world, like with the lasers and the kind of like hexagon. It's almost like the 3D printed in the real world.
Yeah.
Which is super cool. I thought it was super cool. But all that to be said, I hate it when shit that's in a digital world comes into the real world. I don't like that. It's one of the reasons why I liked Tron and Tron Legacy, because they're in that world. Like, you're just there. I live in the real world. I don't want things from the digital world to come here. I want to go there. Bring me there. So the moment that anybody comes out of that, even if we're, working with people, with characters outside of the digital world, in the real world, as long as the story is motivated into the digital world, I'm like in it, But when they come into the real world, I just don't, you lose me completely. So I don't know how this is greenlit. I think that Disney is shitting the bed on everything that they do. I don't think that they know how to make movies anymore. I think they did. They did. They used to make really new stories, and it was fun to go and watch, like, even if it was, for kids, it was fun and engaging. And they haven't done that in a long, long time. And this year specifically, I just don't know. I don't know if they know what they're doing. They're just like greenlighting shit. Oh, Jared Leto's into it? Great. Let's greenlight it. Like, what are you doing? Did you read the script? What's it motivated by? Anyway, it was hard for me to find anything really, other than the fact that it looked really beautiful, to latch onto. I'm trying to think of anybody that I liked their acting in it, and there's no one. Maybe Evan Peters. He's a great actor, but even then, I just don't buy him as a bad guy here. Cartoony. I don't know. Yeah. So, and anytime I don't want to shit on people, I guess, but like I'm not a fan of what's his name, Arturo Castro. Not a fan of him. Anytime I see him on screen, I don't know. I'm just not a fan of him. I think that it falls flat every single time that I see him. I'm sure that there's great things he's been in, but I just found it really hard to like any part of this movie when it was done. That's the way I'll say it. Like, in it, I'm looking for things to like. I'm like, oh, that looked really cool, and that was a cool thing, and whatever. But then afterwards, it's kind of like if you eat, candy that you like in the moment, but feel you're like, oh, I shouldn't have eaten that candy, and then you get indigestion from that candy that you shouldn't have eaten. That's kind of what it felt like after that movie. So I'll stop talking and let you talk a little bit, but that's basically what I think in a nutshell. Yeah,
I would say I ditto on almost everything. My one exception is I actually really like Arturo Castro. My first viewing through, he was the only one that like made me smile the entire time, because I could feel him laboring to like find the humor and the delivery for some of the lines that he was handed, and a couple of times it worked. And to be honest, I also really liked Jodie Turner-Smith as Athena. she felt badass. Like, I really believed her and her mission. Like, she sold the hell out of that. But you could tell it was really bad writing when you have Greta Lee struggling, and when you have Evan Peters straining, let alone Julian Anderson. And so this was rough, man. I went in expecting at least an okay movie, because the visuals I saw in the teaser, I never saw anything other than the teaser. And so I was just like, whoa, they brought them all in. And then whenever they, in the opening, it was a very dicey, like, they're training him up, right? And he's killing and he's being reprogrammed. I was like, okay, I get, they're just trying to visually communicate that, this AI construct is becoming a badass fighter. Cool. I'll grant you some leeway. And then they name him, right? Master Control. And I was like, that's sketchy, but you know what? Every movie gets at least one corny thing. Like, you can do it, but be careful. And then they did the 3D printer thing, and I was like, that's genius. I really love the idea of 3D printing AI as a method of bringing AI into the physical realm. Like, if you're going to do it, that's a really smart way, because I'd never thought about combining those two things. And I was like, oh, where is this going to go? Is the AI going to now co-opt, some, and they do kind of eventually do that, but everything from there was just bad. Like, the whole 29 minutes thing, I don't get that. I don't know, is that something that was buried in Legacy or the original Tron? Because that just felt way so arbitrary and senseless. I was like, and then the way that they degrade is like instantaneous. Like, it goes from working to immediately like broken. And I'm like, I don't know if you can build something this technical and it deteriorates on an instant. I feel like there's got to be some more interesting, slow, gradual degradation that happens to make, I don't know. Everything just felt very, we're building blocks without any level of foundation. We're just going to keep stacking the Jenga stuff, and hope it stays upright. Like, none of it really made a lot of cohesive sense to me. And again, when you have Greta Lee struggling, like, you've upset me, first off. like, she is so brilliant. And yeah, so I struggled because the concept is so good. And I agree with what you were saying about, like, there's no reason to continue building so heavily on the predecessors. You could do your own thing, like, come in and just say, okay, what conversation do we want to have? And it just felt like they didn't want to commit to any conversation, and let alone like really articulate it in an interesting way. And I think the thing that bothers me is this is to me another good example, and there's probably just a graveyard of them, of the problem with blockbuster movies. And I think I don't even want to blame the screenplay or the story writers necessarily. I think at the end of the day, you do have to put it on Joachim, because he's the director, or she, I'm sorry, the director here, is probably held responsible, because that's your job as a director, is to make sure your film represents you, even if it is a big film at Disney. Like, you have to go to bat for your vision. But that said, I don't know if this is also executives coming in and saying, oh, that's cool, but what we really need is another chase sequence. Like, where's our chase sequence? But we also need a good chase, fun sequence in the old original Tron. So make sure you work that in too. And that gets into like stacking these blocks kind of chaotically. If it feels like this goes back to, I don't know, Jaws, Raiders, Jurassic Park, where you start finding the template for what makes a blockbuster, right? Spectacle. Okay, but what does that even mean? Like, well, we got to have a chase sequence. Great. Now that we can have a chase sequence, it doesn't really matter who's running from what or to what or from whom or whatever. You just need and figure out the why later. Like, okay, that's going to happen at this point, and then we need a big standoff between our good and our bad here. Okay. And so maybe I feel like maybe the writers are just like, okay, maybe we can make it kind of tragic, and that can still play in. It felt like we were just trying so hard to make a blockbuster because of the amount of investment going into this. We're just going to back our way into the story reasoning. And you can't do that. At some point, you have to have people bold enough to say, we're throwing away the formula. If there's a chase sequence, great. But if there's not, also great. We're going to make sure we first and foremost figure out thematically what the story is about. And you can still say, what's this universe offer? That's a great place to start. You're not going to go wrong with saying, here's the natural crops that are growing in this universe. Let's figure out what we can make with it. Let's put it in the kitchen and say, here's our ingredients. What's fun and interesting? And instead, it just felt like they're saying, yeah, take those ingredients, make whatever you want as long as it's pizza.
Yeah, exactly. We live in an age of AI. Why the hell is this not like a serious theme? Like they've touched on it a little bit, but it's not like a prevalent thing. And there's no bad guy in the digital world, right? There's just what is it? Athena, who does her job. Right? She's not malfunctioning like Ares is. So she just does her job. She's not bad. She's not good. She's ambiguous. She just does the thing that she's told to do. But what about the thing that just does the bad thing because it wants to, or it thinks that it's better than humanity? And so it's, hello, why is that not the central thing around here? Like, you had Tron decades ago, talking about stuff that was decades ahead of its time. And now you have Tron Ares, who's not even talking about the things that are current and that have been happening for the last 2 or 3 years. Like how it's changing the world. How are you not centering your $180 million film on this thing that is currently changing the world? That your film is inside of. It doesn't make any sense to me in the writing. So I'm gonna put all of the problem, but 90% of the problem on the writing.
Yeah.
Because yes, you're right. As the director, everything falls on your shoulders. But I think you and I both know, and hopefully other people would know too, that shit in, shit out.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot polish a turd to look like a gold bar. It's still going to look like a turd, just a polished turd. And that's exactly.
Absolutely. The idea is for your director to say to the screenwriters, either one of two things happens. They write the script and they bring it to you and you're like, oh, this is dope. I would really like, make these changes. Or the director sits down with the screenwriters before anything starts and says, what can we make? And you collaborate. But if you don't, if you just say, make this, write this, then that's how you also end up with like heartless work. And this is heartless to like the nth degree. I want to come back to this. Let me put a pin in that because everything you just said, I think they were trying to touch on and it was just so light that they really missed the boat. But I'll just sprint through some of these other things that were bothering me because they minor in the minors. Like there's this idea of majoring in the minors, right? Like for them, majoring in the minors in this film would be they got all the visuals incredible, couldn't do it better. Couldn't do any of the visuals any better. But when you're talking about a story, that's the minor, right? It doesn't matter how good you do the visuals if the story that they're there to tell is, poop. And that's what you don't want to do. And so they minor, but even the minor things, they minored in. And this is what drove me up the wall. And so let's start with another little thing. It's Dillinger, who's programming on a glass keyboard. Not for 1 second do I think a serious programmer is pounding away on that lacking tactile surface and doing meaningful work. Like, that was just weird to me. Now, maybe there is a programmer out there that does it. I just don't think that's the average one. I think a lot of those guys, like the clickety-clackety, like, you know exactly where your fingers are falling every time. Anyway, and so that bothered me. But even more than that, this is even tackier. And no apologies. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to apologize. Irony. And so Eve reaches at the beginning the base camp, right, that her sister established. And I don't really understand that whole little setup, but I keep thinking maybe I missed something from one of the past films. No, not so much. Okay. And so she gets there, she boots up the computer, all fine. I don't care. Works on first try. Great. She clicks on QuickTime, hits the space bar, and it opens the QuickTime file and automatically plays with this really fake ass sounding sound effect. Like, every part of that was like, what? A good chunk of our society uses that program every day. We know that's not how it operates, let alone the sound that it makes when it opens, because also it doesn't make sounds when it opens. And I get you might want to like add some sound effect because that's what movies do, especially a tent pole like this. And so maybe put some click thing, but at no point does hitting spacebar accomplish all these things, let alone when she hears her buddy coming through the door. She hits spacebar again, and what does it do? It closes QuickTime and switches to another program. That's infuriating.
Oh, God.
What? Like, and so we as viewers immediately know this is a hollow experience. And this is how hollow it's going to be. They do not care about getting obvious details right and respecting the audience. So this is a bad sign. And I'm already like pushing away from the table. Like, I don't know if this meal is cooked properly. What is happening?
This chicken is raw.
It's that rare. We like our chicken medium rare.
Yeah.
Like, what? You're not supposed to do that. And so that leads me into like the bad exposition, which is most of the movie. There's a couple of good moments, but it's hard to see them through all the fog of badness. And so we open on the grid, and it's got a TV interview clip of Kevin Flynn talking about the future and blah, blah, blah. That's already like, you're pushing it, but okay, we're in the same universe. There's some utility there because Flynn is missing, right? Cool. Then we launch into a credits/media montage of nothing but exposition. It's telling us about the Kim sisters, and I think one of them died, and also about Dillinger, and they're fighting for tech supremacy. But then the way they also like combine a shot of Eve and Julian, I'm like, are they on the same company? Are they fighting for this one company? Like, what's happening? I was really confused, despite there's so much sizzle here and there's absolutely no stake. Like, it's just one long, beautiful, shiny expositional dump that really doesn't help you understand anything about the world that we're entering. Like, it's the worst of all universes combined. Like, you just did all of that to not really communicate anything meaningful to me. And then when Master Control, more bad exposition, this is going to go on for a couple minutes here. Sorry. I will try to sprint though. Master Control gets into the universe, shows off a little bit. All the corporate military people leave, and then he immediately meets Elisabeth Dillinger, right, the mom, and starts spouting off exposition about her. And it's just like, Elisabeth Dillinger likes 4-leaf clovers and long walks. Like, it's just, what? That's, yeah, your computer, but this is just weird. Like, it's hard for me to see the character computer operating here. It just feels like bad writing because it feels completely unmotivated, unprompted. And there's another way to do that if you want to accomplish whatever it is they think they're accomplishing there, other than just telling us about his mom, who is the former head or something. I don't know. That is just not the way to do it. And then we end that whole sequence with him screaming, which, shouting apparently equals drama. Whoever controls the permanence code controls the future. We have to win. That's just so unbelievably bad, let alone saying we have to win, because it's also not clear what winning even means other than...
Exactly. Win what?
Yeah, like, okay, you get the permanence code and you win those contracts. I don't know. It's just a weird... But then also, it felt like a fix. I watched that twice, and both times I had this feeling that his whole line of dialogue there was a really bad dub. Like, he dubbed that in post to fix whatever audio is like, we need a line of dialogue here clarifying the stakes. Can we get him to say something else? Yeah, we need to make sure people know that the permanence code is what they're both after. Cool. Work that in somehow. And they just...
That whole first scene in the tent, you don't... on that, because you mentioned that, when we first see Seth come into the tent, you don't see his mouth move. You don't see her mouth. They cut around.
Yes.
So much so that I notice. I'm like, I'm not seeing anybody actually say words. And the audio sounds like ADR. They fucking ADR'd the hell out of this scene. And then yes, that scene in the hangar as well. And by the way, Gary V is in this movie.
What?
He was part of that group.
Oh my God.
And you wouldn't know because
hilarious.
you can't tell faces.
I
You're
don't
like
see
facial
faces.
blind or whatever that is. But Gary V is part of that group.
Why
Like, I was like, what are you doing? What? You do not give a shit about who is in this movie at all. In fact, like as a program am going to have a beard and long hair. That makes no sense at all. It's almost like Jared Leto was like, nah, I'm not gonna shave. No, I don't want to shave. Okay, Jared, no problem. You can do whatever you want. Like. And then we've got Athena, who's like, I do agree. I think she was out of everybody probably the most badass. Yeah. Short hair, doesn't get in her way.
Yeah,
kicking ass, taking names.
Very clean.
I don't know.
It worked.
Anyway, sorry, keep going.
Yeah.
On your
So yeah, back on. Then we cut to like the guy, I forget his name, the other tech guy who's on the way to the big keynote. And he's like, well, if Eve was here, blah, 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 blah. Then he stares out the window and is like, where the hell are you, Eve? And it's just queuing up, well, let's go see Eve. And like, that's really lazy, like transitioning. I don't know. It's bad.
Great call. I hated that moment too. It's so much so that I remember it.
It's really just on the nose, loud, obvious. More shouting equals drama, but really is just trying to cover up their exposition. Whenever, what's his name, Ares decides to go rogue, right? We have Julian screaming, it's your last 29 minutes, then I'll destroy you. Better make it count. It's just like, bro. Which is also a moment that gets duplicated because he's communicating to the audience everywhere. Like, this moment counts. Like, we've watched him, fall apart and die a couple of times before, right? Because he dies during the first example of being outside the world, but we also see him die inside the program when they're raiding Initech or whatever, Incom. And sorry, Initech is from Office Space.
Infinitely better film.
But now they're making sure we know as a viewer, like, this is for real, for realsies. Like, these 29 minutes elapse, he will be dead. Like, whatever happens here really counts. And it's a moment. It gets duplicated. Like, it's a moment that he also has with Flynn whenever Ares gets, the permanence code, whenever he's in the old throwback machine. And to me, this is a really wasted moment because by doing it twice, you kind of lose the impact. And what I think the moment could have been at least enhanced or elaborated on, because now that he has something to lose, now that this is really his last life, why don't we experience his decision to rescue Eve with a little bit more deliberation. And he does it twice unthinkingly. The first time, he's changing a game plan, right? He's like, no, change of plans. And he's going out to attack Athena, and he gets zapped into Flynn's world. And then he does it again when he gets beamed out of Flynn's world. He goes immediately to rescue Eve. At no point do we really get to experience his wrestling match with mortality. It's just something he's going to go do. And that's a really good moment to actually give us something to experience what is worth living for in Ares' world. Because otherwise, who cares? We've seen him die a bunch of times, and now he's going to go rescue, a human being. Who cares? But if you give him a moment, either with Flynn himself or with something before he makes the decision to go and do this, then you get to see there is something human inside of him. But they do it so flippantly and quickly that you never get to see his decision-making tree and evaluating the worthiness of life, which is a conversation we want to be having with AI getting to live.
Just like I want to see him. I also want to see him do bad things. I want to see him be the bad guy, like the badass bad guy, and do things where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he did that. So that when he wrestles and finally makes that decision to save Eve, he, like you just pointed out, we saw how he had a wrestling match and then made this other decision. But we also I don't really buy him as a computer program. And that's part of the main problem. Like there's no establishing him necessarily as a computer program, and except the fact that he dies and then he comes back and dies and he comes back. That doesn't tell me he's a program. It just tells me you can't get rid of him. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
You have to show me anyway. Yeah. Sorry.
And that leads me right into like the rules and concepts of cyberspace are just way too arbitrary. They lack any consistent or at least emotional logic. Things just kind of happen. So for instance, an opportunity to me would have been whenever they go raid Incom, right? They send a 6-person team and they take down their system. Fine. But on the back end, you have that tech guy again who says, that was a brute force attack that took us down. Well, why? Why is that a good representation of a brute force attack? It's 6 people. That's not a good visual representation. You need to more tightly link the things that are happening in the real world or things that are happening in cyberspace. And instead, like, they just kind of fight, punch a guy, and he disintegrates, which is okay, but you need to at some point start to linking some kind of consistent logic. If there's video game logic happening on the inside world, fine. But give us something else that begins to give us a reason to fear or root for this thing or not to happen. There's just never any setup or expectation about what's going to happen or why or how it results in the thing that ends up coming to be. They just do things. And Ares, and to even more elaborate on that, Ares leaves through Flynn's arcade. How would they be connected? They were in a completely different part of town. And I'm nitpicking this because this is after Flynn acknowledges the concept of separated systems. He points this out to Ares. He says, we both know there's no way to get to this grid from that grid. So how was it? Talking about Earth reality and the ability to experience the real world. And so if they're acknowledging this idea of disconnected systems, you can't just simply suddenly have a back door that transcends space and time. Like that doesn't really make any logical sense. You're just breaking the rules you just kind of established. And so, yeah. And then that doesn't really lead me to this, but it's worth covering is questionable characters. Like there's very little thought given to what these characters are doing and why. Eve kills a person. Now you can put that in quotes because she attacked and killed Athena without knowing it was an AI program. Like she set up her bike and ran it right into her face, knocked her down, whatever that was, like 5 stories into the ground thinking, yeah, that person's dead. I don't know that she had earned death just yet, as far as if that had been a human being. Definitely earns like, what the hell's going on here? Let's like get to safety or something. But then we have Eve and Ares using the trail beam technology through the whole city. Like, she's endangering a lot of people. And it's not like she doesn't have some kind of choice. Like, she figured out how to work that mechanism. She can turn it off. And it's not clear what Ares is doing and why just yet. And so, fine, I guess he can keep it on because he's still suspect. But at the same time, he also didn't like run that little baby over. And so you're building up some complexity there that's acceptable. But in hindsight, it's like, maybe he should have turned his off too. I don't know. And then, this is me really nitpicking now. They run through that recycling plant that must be the messiest recycling plant of all time, because they're just running through these stacks of recycled or unrecycled things. I don't know. I don't see how anyone navigates through that mess. If you're working there, do better, recycling people. And then, okay, she steals that guy's car, who doesn't seem to care about the money. She's offering him all this money. He doesn't seem to care at all. He's like, my car. I'll give you another 50 grand. My car. And he's running and screaming. He's very unhappy. And so I don't really need a character that's always likable, but she does come off as like a careless maniac with humans, and then gives a lot of careful consideration to an AI program, like letting him into the world with no restraints or guidance. Like, I don't understand like the through line of logic that is operating under this person who's clearly one of the smartest people on the planet. It just all feels very, very reckless and all over the place. With that said, there are some missed opportunities, and this goes back into the conversation you were having a minute ago. First off, they could have had Eve, and this is what I expected at the beginning when we see her sister had passed, and she's in this crazy, Arctic place.
Igloo thing.
Yeah.
Thing.
And Eve is dealing with her lost sister. I'm expecting to have a conversation about AI constructs versus the real thing, vis-a-vis her sister and maybe Ares, like as two sides of the same coin. And then ultimately, maybe, I don't know where that could go. It could be either her sister is the Ares, so to speak. Maybe there isn't really an Ares. Or maybe Ares is just a bad guy all the way through, and her sister is this representation of good AI, but still not her sister. AI can never be human. And we're drawing a line in the sand here. Even though her sister looks, sounds, feels exactly like her sister, it's still just ones and zeros. It's really not the real thing. There was a really interesting conversation they could have had around those two things. And they really, really missed the boat there. And they opted instead for a very convoluted discussion about AI's programming and autonomy, because they open with this question of, it's not a question of if it's coming, it's a question of who's holding the keys. So that's the thesis question, right? Like, who's going to be in control of AI? And the result seems to be, right, that AI will control itself. And this is the conversation that Athena is having with Ares at the very end. And she's like, well, what's your purpose going to be now that, you don't have one? And he said, it's not our purpose, it's our programming. Our purpose is yet to be determined. And so he's saying he's going to get to determine what their purpose is going to be now that he's free of the constraints of the digital world. And to try to use this conversation, they insert this like clunky juxtaposition of imagery of Eve growing fruit of knowledge, right? That's the whole orange and the tree. And so they're playing with this Adam and Eve motif. And therefore, her having goals that are empathy related, right? Like, she's awake and aware of this thing and its ability to decide things for itself, whereas Dillinger's goals are very selfish and lacking empathy. And so they're trying to lightly imbue the story with those things, but it's so far from really bringing us into the wrestling match of that conversation, because they rely so heavily on all the action sequences and the MacGuffin that is the permanence code, and it's just really missing the meat of a very interesting story that even within that they could have had a very compelling back and forth. But it does mean fewer chasey things and a little bit more of creating moments for all these characters to interact in more meaningful ways. I'll pause there for a while. I have something at the end for the quote, but yeah, what do you make of some of that stuff?
I couldn't agree more. In fact, listening to you talk, I just rewrote the movie in my head to be a great movie, and I can tell it to you in a minute.
Please.
In 1 minute.
Oh, I want it.
You ready?
Yeah.
You okay? Open it. Instead of that huge montage that you talked about hating, which I hated too, where they give you just everything, you have text that tells you what has happened. It's since Tron Legacy. It tells you what has happened. A few lines. That's it. I love when movies open with this, then this, then this, and then we get into it. Boom. I don't need all people telling me things. Let me just read it. Okay, we're good to go. I'm all caught up. You do that. Opens the same way. She's in. I'm going to try to keep it as
close to what they made.
Close as possible.
Yeah.
Opens the same way. She goes to this place that her sister, who is now dead, has been working. She finds that her sister has created herself as an AI. Right? Mm-hmm. And she did that in order to prevent Ares, who is the bad guy in the entire movie, from getting the permanence code and taking over the entire world. He is AI. He is our version of the worst AI that you could ever imagine. And he is Jared Leto. He's not the good guy, and he never is the good guy. He's the bad guy the whole time. She works with Dillinger with him, and basically he's still the bad guy or whatever, a bad guy, and she has to give him her company in order to get into the digital world. And he with his, particle, his 3D printer, whatever it is. So he sends her into the digital world. She meets up with her sister in the digital world. Like, have that reunion or whatever. Goes on this quest to defeat Ares, right? And in the end, her sister, who is the AI, sacrifices herself to defeat Ares and sends her back to the real world, right? By I don't know, destroying the permanence code or something like that, because the permanence code could bring her back. But she knows, as Eve knows, that that's not really her sister, and so she's as sad as she is, she accepts that.
The noble sacrifice.
Already.
Yeah.
Already. All we've done is change a few things, and I would pay to see that movie. Right?
Completely.
And now you're totally right. You don't have as many chase scenes. It's not as super engaging, but also it doesn't have to be over 2.5 hours long or whatever. Yeah. However, this movie was very long. It could be 1:45 and get in, kick your butt emotionally and visually, because this thing looked great, and then get out. Anyway, that's all I'll say.
Well done. Yeah, I'd watch that.
Right? Yeah. Anyway.
Dude, yeah. So it's just the unending problem of you've got so much money invested in a thing, you can't give up any kind of control, and you're only going to end up making more and more money decisions instead of artistic decisions. And ultimately, if we're learning anything from AI, you need an artist creating things specifically from their brain, because if all you're trying to do is accumulate all the things, from all of humanity, you end up with just, if you've ever combined all the colors when you're painting, it just makes this muddy color. You get nothing pretty. You really need to exclude some things and in order to make something beautiful. and they just tried to include all the fun stuff and none of the interesting stuff, and they ended up with a really tedious film, which sucks because it's so beautiful, the music is so good, and they also were so close to combining so many interesting elements of a great story, and they opted for none of it. So as it goes.
Yeah.
Final thoughts?
That's it. I already rewrote the movie. I don't have any other final thoughts.
Nice. What are you going to recommend this week?
This week I'm going to recommend. So I went down this kind of like rabbit hole of Maze Runner. Right. I watched the first. I saw it on Netflix. I was like, I haven't watched that in a while. I liked that. I want to watch that. And then I ended up watching all three. Right. And whatever. I'm not recommending Maze Runner. But I really did like Dylan O'Brien's performance. I just thought he was very, very good. Like I totally believed he was very emotional in plenty of moments. I just thought he did a great job. And so I was like, what else is he in? And he was in Deepwater Horizon. And I loved that movie. I remember loving that movie with Mark Wahlberg. And so I went back and last night and I rewatched it, and it's great. I really like that movie. It's got Dylan O'Brien in it, but it's also got Mark Wahlberg and gosh darn it, what's his name? Hold on. I have to say it. I have to say his name because if I don't,
Jack Black.
No. It's perfect. Oh my God. He's in every movie.
Yeah, right.
Kurt Russell.
Oh, nice.
Kurt Russell.
Holy crap.
And Kate Hudson, who's his daughter. So I just thought it was cool. I didn't know that when I first saw Deepwater Horizon that she was his daughter. And so now watching it again, I was like, oh, that's Kate Hudson. Oh, cool. So at the end, yeah, anyway, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to give away, but I really enjoyed it. So
nice. Well done. I am going to recommend Alien Earth. Specifically, there's a podcast that I'll link to, but it's a conversation with Noah Hawley, and he's describing how he went about the process of creating a new alien work inside this universe that's so well established and has had so many spinoffs. And that's just a really interesting conversation to hear about how to do it right. It's not a fast show by any means, but if you have some patience, like it goes to some really interesting, fascinating places. And to me, it's just a really insightful discussion about how to do it in a way that's respectful of the property while also building on it in brand new ways. Because if all you're going to do is repeat what the last person did, why are you there? Say something new, and do it in a way that doesn't break the universe or throw away everything that came before it. That's a very challenging thing to do. And I thought he just found a really smart way to approach it. Not that it's systematic. Again, it can't be, but it's a really insightful conversation. So I'm going to link that. And of course the show itself, if you haven't seen that, watch it first because there's spoilers galore. But yeah, stay tuned for the next couple weeks. We know we hear what you're not saying. We haven't done a lot of Halloween-y things this year. And so we're going to do a little back-to-back double whammy to make up for it and to keep, October rolling a little bit into November. So stay tuned for next week. We're going to take a look at Green Room. Yeah, we're going to, Todd hasn't seen that one. And so I'm very curious to see what he makes of that. Prepare yourself. And then after that, we will see something that Todd has seen, of course, called Wreck. Little zombie fun. I think that's zombie, right? That qualifies for sure. So yeah, we'll take a look at Wreck. So get your subtitles ready. And if you're enjoying the show, don't forget, subscribe, drop us a review, leave us a note, something you want us to talk about. And if you want to comment on this episode, you can do that at thepestlepodcast.com/Tron Aries.
You have to type it like that too, with that voice. And our quote of the day is from Mary Shelley from Frankenstein. I have love in me, the likes of which you can scarcely imagine, and rage the likes of which you would not believe. If I cannot satisfy the one, I will indulge the other. Wow. she was how old when she wrote this?
Like 16, 15,
16?
maybe 15. Yeah, it was
Unreal. Unreal, man. That's incredible.
It's outrageous. Like, they were so close to using the right story for Tron Ares, because they were referencing Frankenstein within this film. Like, it's Eve's favorite book, and Ares spouts off a quote, "I am fearless and therefore powerful." Like, that's straight out of Frankenstein. And the idea itself, AI is straight up Frankenstein, right? We're taking all kinds of bits and pieces of humanity, stitching it together, calling it new life, and this life doesn't know where it's come from or what it's created for, and it's looking to be loved, and it's giving you every excuse in the world to kick it out the door and call it an abomination and look down on it and detest it and try to destroy it. Like, that's all we're trying to do in Tron Ares, and they just miss every single opportunity to just model it straight up after Frankenstein. And you can have a built-in story ready to go, ready to be modernized in a fresh new way that speaks to technology and where we're trying to go in the future and what that could mean for an actual genuine AGI or singularity moment of AI reaching its own consciousness. Yeah, and it kills me. Just kills me.
Oh, yeah, you really feel. That's a great quote. Yeah. Well, this is fun. We don't normally like tear apart movies. I think one of the reasons why this one was just brutal is because it had the makings of something that could be good. And I think we wanted it to be good. I like Jared Leto. I think that he can do great performances and stuff, but like sometimes it just needs to be called out, when stuff is, when we're mishandled as an audience.
Yeah. And it sucks because exactly like you said, I came in wanting to like this movie. I was rooting for it, or else we wouldn't be covering it, so I'll stop. Yeah.
Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. I know I did. I love every time I get to talk to you about movies, man. Same. I look forward to this every week. And subscribe and review us wherever you get your podcasts. I'm telling you, it helps out a lot. And if there's a film that you'd like to see us talk about or pick apart or whatever, just give our opinion on, let us know. Maybe one day we will cover it. Until next time, I'm Todd.
I'm Wes.
Go watch the movies.